Hi and welcome to another training video. Today what we're going to be taking a look at is MapInfo and a particular problem that's been posed to me by a customer who wants to show in his report the last date that the MapInfo file was updated. Now here in MapInfo we've got our file which has the report in it, and this has been output as a picture file, and the picture file has then been brought into Word. Now, what they were looking at was how to put in a dynamic field within the Word document, and then they can just hit update to update that to show today's date. Unfortunately, this only shows the date the Word document was updated and does not show the date that the MapInfo file was updated. So let's have a look and see how to do that. Now, in MapInfo, the first thing we need to do is create a new layer over here. Now the new layer is not just from a file that we've got open. We're going to create a new table file, a new table, and that's what we're going to add into the current mapper rather than a new mapper, and this will put the layer in as a new layer in my current window. I'm going to create a new table structure for this as well. And the reason I'm creating a new table structure is because I'm going to put in a couple of different columns just so that we can use it. So this first one I'm going to put in, called it text, and I can put in characters, and let's say we'll allow 20 characters. And I'm then going to say add field. I'm going to put in another field. This one's going to be called date, and it's clearly going to be a date field. I'm going to hit create. It's going to say, what do you want to save this file as? I'm going to save it on my desktop, and I'm just going to call it, let's call it date text. Now, one interesting thing is you'll note when I minimize this down, you can actually see that MapInfo has created 4 different files, all with the same name but with different file extensions. And this is something that you will get used to if you're working with MapInfo. It doesn't archive them up and save them in a zip file like a lot of other programs do. And in fact, most people don't realize that programs such as Excel do that as well. And they save a separate file for every sheet, for one for the workbook, one for your passwords, one for your code, everything like that. And it zips them all up into an archive, and the archive's name is XLSX. The reason MapInfo doesn't do this is because it's far faster to access these directly rather than having to unzip them and then access them. And MapInfo is optimized for speed. There is the file that's been saved on the desktop. Okay, so back into MapInfo. What we want to do is we want to have a look at this date text, which has been made editable and added into my layers. So I'm going to make sure I go to my spatial ribbon, and I'm going to set a style for the region. I'm going to say I want, let's say, no fill, and we'll leave it with a solid black line as the boundary. I'm going to click OK. I'm now going to insert a region, and I'll just insert it down there. And there we go. What I now want to do is use this object, which MapInfo thinks is a spatial rectangular region. I'm going to use that and give it some labels. Now, by default, it's going to go in with a label containing the text from the furthest leftmost column. But if I go into the browser for date text, you'll see that I have no date in my furthest left column. So let's go ahead and put something in here. And what we're going to do is say last updated, and in the date column, in fact I'll put last updated and then a space, and in the date column we're going to put in a date. So let's put in the 1st of the 10th 2018, and you'll notice that is not today's date. Now as soon as I come back to my map window, it's now showing me the text which was in that furthest left column. That's kind of half of what I wanted. I wanted that as well as what's in the second column. So I'm going to come into here and I'm going to join the two together. So with my label display, I'm going to say show me an expression, show me the text which is from my furthest left column, and show me the column date. Verify it says the syntax is correct. And there we go, last updated, and it runs it all together. It's gone to the right of the centroid. We can fix that by coming here to the labeling rules, set it to go on the centroid itself, and that will then be centered on the centroid, as you can see from that icon, rather than to the right of the centroid. There we go, so it's now in the center. But you will notice that it's not included the space that I put at the end of my text. If I want to include the space, I need to put that in separately as well. So I'll come into here to my label display, go back into the expression, and in between there, I will say put in the text and something like that, and the date. So quotes, space, quotes in the middle. So that will now put in an extra space in between. Now there's a better way of doing that, is to put them on extra lines instead. So the way of doing that is in the expression, rather than putting in the quote space quotes, what I can do is I can type in character string 13. So character string 13 is a new line, and now that goes on a new line, and that's much better. You will, however, notice there's something different here. The date that I've typed in has now changed its format. It's gone the other way around. Now an easy way of fixing that, go back into here, and just before where it says date in my expression, I'm going to tell it to format that as a date. So format date, and I want to format the date column, and it's going to pick up the formatting from whatever my regional settings are down here. So if you want to change that into a different regional settings, just simply flick your own regional settings into a different region and then change them back again afterwards. So the syntax is correct. And there we go, that's now gone into my regional settings. But you will notice that that is not today's date or the date this was last updated necessarily. All it is the date that I had typed into that cell there. Now I can actually get around that. What I can do again is go back into here, and instead of date in my expression, I can simply say use a command, and the command is current date. If I use current date, it's like using today in Excel, and so it's formatting as a date still, verify, and OK. That is now changed to show today's date. Now if I output this file, so if I simply go to the home ribbon, save image, I'm going to save it as a GeoTIFF, and I'm saving it and overwriting the existing file. Now you'll notice that that is the file that's been updated, and I now have a whole load of extra files which are information to do with the geographic position of that little text box in the corner. But this is the file that's been updated, and if I go into Word, all I need to do is select the image and press F9, and it will update based upon that file. Now the reason it did that is because I inserted this picture in a certain way. So from the insert ribbon in Word, I went to pictures and I click on report, but I don't just hit insert. I come across to this little drop down on the right and I say insert and link. That now puts it in, and whenever I refresh, it actually checks to see if it has the latest version of that picture. Now if I open this file tomorrow, my Word document, and make some changes within the Word document, I will then be able to update the field here, and that will say the 29th. But my MapInfo data will still tell me that that's valid as at the 28th. Okay, I hope this has been useful. And once more, thank you for listening.